I've got a 2000 point word bearer's armor here that can hopefully win me another RTT. So I'm going to go through each unit and tell you why I've picked it and what it's going to do for me in the upcoming RTT this Sunday. So yes, before you say it, I know that the lighting is not the best in here, but this is the only place I've got to show off my entire armor list all in one go for this video, so you'll have to excuse me for that. We are going to start with Cypher. So I've made my own Cypher because I'm not keen on the existing model, and this guy is modelled after a word bearer hero, you could say, called Barfuza Narek. If you're not sure who that is, have a little look up in the lore. He's a pretty cool character. So Cypher, the model, he gives out his 12-inch Vectora, which is very annoying. Adds one to stratagems. It adds one CP usage to stratagems, and he can change the course of battle. He's also got lone up and is pretty good in shooting and combat as well, so he can be quite nasty taking out units, but he also scores a lot of secondary objectives with good positioning with him. I know he positioning him close to the middle to give out his aura, but also can do things like establish locus or area denial while still remaining in cover or being outside 12 inches of his lone up. Then I've got unit chosen. So these guys normally sit in a rhino, again close to the mid board, so they can advance and charge. Well, advance, shoot, charge, fall back, shoot, charge. They can do it all, and that means coming out of a rhino, they can disembark 3 inches, move 6 inches with an advance, and then charge. So they have a massive threat range. They're not going to be killing any sort of heavy infantry or vehicles or anything like that, but they can punch up with dark packs, and they can get a lot of hits on smaller, lighter units and take them out, and it's just a threat range really. You can also give them the stratagem when they come out of the rhino, if your opponent, with Renegade Raiders, if your opponent is on an objective marker, then they get full rerolls to hit and full rerolls to wound, which can be pretty nasty with the amount of attacks they can dish out. But sadly, there's only one power fist in the unit, so they're okay, and only 125 points currently. So next I've got 2 units of Legionnaires, kitted out the same, last cannon, power fist, heavy weapon, and then pistols and chainswords, and they'll be going into one of my 2 rhinos. So what I usually do with these squads is both of them go to the same rhino. Rhino goes into reserves. Turn 2, 3, depending on how it's looking. They'll normally come over in turn 3 in the opponent's backfield, try and take the home objective, or they can come on turn 2 and shore up over an area where I've lost a lot of units. Coming on later on in the game, if they're coming in the opponent's deployment zone in turn 3, if you've got things like established locus or behind enemy lines, they can just pop out. There's 3 units then in total, and they can do the actions for you. Rhinos are pretty solid anyway, so 75 points vehicle can do actions for you after they've disembarked the troops. In the other rhino, alongside the chosen, will be my not quite finished painted Havocs. I've added these guys in because at the Coventry GT I found that I was struggling to get first turn kills. If anything was kill one, kill more, etc. Or overwhelming force or anything like that on the first turn. I didn't really have much ranged output, so these guys again can use the same stratagem that I mentioned with the chosen. So coming out of a rhino, if anything's on an objective, they get to full reroll hits, full reroll wounds. Other than that, it's just nice to have 4 last cannons, take out a vehicle or 2, as I don't really have much really dedicated anti-tank in here apart from my Vindicator, which I'll get to later. That's the same reason also that I've got the last cannons in there. They just lose one attack compared to a chainsword, and lose 1 off the AP, but it's not really that big of a deal, and you get a last cannon. Sometimes it might do something, most times it does not. I've also got my ever reliable Cultists, these little guys just sit on my home field objective, and they give me sticky objectives. If my opponent doesn't have anything that can come in from reserve, then they might push up the board, try and steal some more objectives, make them sticky. If not, then I'll just sit there and just look after my home objective. The Accursed Cultists. So I have 2 blobs of Accursed Cultists, this one with a custom Dark Commune, made from the Beastmen from the Blackstone Fortress kit. These ones are just a standard kit, but they're just pretty brutal. I'm sure we all know about the Dark Commune and Accursed Cultist combo now. So they get a 5+ invulnerable save from the Dark Commune. They get 6+ Feel No Pain from the Accursed Cultists. They have a once per game ability from the Dark Commune where they can advance and charge. They can, and then they get +1 to hit and +1 to wound. And then also if they get shot and they lose a model, they can do a surge move similar to World Eaters, Berserkers. So they move up to D6 towards the close enemy unit. Moving on, so as I said, at the Coventry GT, struggling a little bit for range. So I actually had 3 units of Cursed Cultists. I've dropped one of those because they're a fairly expensive unit, around 260, 70, something like that, for the points, especially after the balanced data slate. So I've now included these 3 vehicles. So the Predators, they are Predator Destructors. So they've got 2 last cannons, and then the main gun, the auto cannon, or whatever it's called, the main turret. So that can be real good elite infantry killers, terminators, things like that, as it's flat 3 damage. If an enemy is on an objective, enemy infantry should I say, then they end up with -3 AP, which is pretty good. The only thing they lack on the main gun is only strength 9, so hitting into vehicles, it's not that great. But again, each got 2 last cannons, so they can hit vehicles, and you know, if you do okay with the last cannons, can put out a bit of damage on vehicles as well. And then they've got the Havocs and the Havoc launcher, and the I normally give them combi bolters just to clear up a little bit of infantry. But again, it's just all about the range. So first turn can actually have some threat, and also my opponent will have to actually hide their units. Whereas the Coventry GT, they could just run around and do what they wanted because they knew that I didn't really have much of a long range threat. Vindicator. So main gun, D6 +3, shot, strength 14, -3 AP, and then D6 damage. D6 damage can be a little bit swingy, but it is what it is. It's an anti-tank gun. It can take out infantry as well, although with blast it only gets 1 shot. I do like Forge Fiends, but in my experience, they always tend to blow themselves up. Forge Fiends do have a 5+ invulnerable save, whereas the Vindicator doesn't have an invulnerable save, but starts on a 2+. In 10th, you always seem to get cover from everything. So a Vindicator in cover, and you apply the Armour of Contempt type stratagem, I forget the name for it, it's very difficult to kill. My last practice game against my friends who run in Leagues of Votan, lots of there's little buggies, I've forgotten what they're called, little transports with the almost last cannon gun on the top, and the land fortress put a lot of fire into it all game, and it somehow managed to survive. I think it ended up on like 3 rooms, but it survived until the end of the game. So pretty tough if you play with it carefully, and can also deal out some damage as well. So all these units are pretty straightforward, pretty general, pretty standard. And then what I've added in as well is a unit of bikers, which can't go wrong with. 70 points, toughness 5, 3 wounds each, pretty good, pretty fast, 12-inch move. I've got a stratagem for auto advance, so they're pretty good, but I'll come back to them in a second. I've got 1 squad of Raptors. Not many people use Raptors, but for 90 points, 12-inch move again, 2 metal guns, power fist, you know, pretty decent, but mainly for objectives, same as these guys. And then I've started to see these being ran a little more now, but it's a Cursed Cultist small size unit. So it's only 90 points, so much cheaper. But the big thing is, without the character unit attached, they can actually scout 6 inches. So these 3 units, the bikes, the raptors, and the accursed cultists that can scout, these are going to be my first turn objective grabbers. So again, Coventry GT. I did have some raptors, but I didn't have anything else. So it was difficult to grab those first turn objectives if you had to, for the secondary, if you had to grab those objectives, or I don't know, do the one where you got to grab the four quarters. I forgot, engage on all fronts. It was difficult to do it because my army was fairly fast, but I didn't really want to be pushing out those units to do secondary objectives turn 1 and then get blasted off the board. These guys can scout out, they move 6, they can easily get onto an objective in most of the tournament setups, and 90 points, you know, fairly decent output, can hit hard. You know, they're okay. If they get destroyed, turn 1 doesn't really matter because they're very cheap. Same as these guys. These guys can always land on objective turn 1, and then the bikes, they're a little bit more awkward to use because obviously the raptors can jump out of cover. These guys can just walk through walls and just move up, whereas these guys can't go through the walls because they're mounted, so you have to position them fairly carefully depending on the deployment. So the diagonals, they've got good places where they can be hidden but then move straight onto an objective. You can also use the auto advance, like I said, so if you really need to just capture an objective turn 1, you can do it. And they also have quite a good damage output because you can have the combi bolters, you can have these guys have got melter guns, and then the middle guy, the champion, he is going to have his plasma pistol cut off, I think, and I'm going to give him a power fist instead. Their abilities are not as good as it used to be. It used to be that you could pick them up 6 inches from the board edge and just put them back on any other board edge next turn. Almost like the Loyalist Space Marine Scouts kind of thing. But now they've just got +1 strength on the charge. Raptors, army rule ability, is not that great. Again, it is -1 to leadership tests or battle shock tests within 6 inches, and then if you're within engagement range, you have to take a battle shock. I mean, it could be useful, probably isn't. And obviously we know about the accursed cultists. If you shoot them, they lose 1 model. They can surge move 6 inches, which again is okay, but not amazing. And then overall, Renegade Raiders is really good. You get 1 additional AP on objectives. You can also have assault on everything, which is a lot more useful when you've got, for example, Havocs, which can advance and shoot. You don't really want them in combat anyway, so they're just going to be advancing around, shooting with last cannons. No modifier to their weapon skill or ballistic skill, which is pretty funny because they can just advance around and be hitting on 3+ last cannons. And then the vehicles, so for example, Predators could move up to 16 inches, Vindicator can move up to 15 because it's only got a base of 9-inch movement. But pretty good. You can just advance these guys up because again they're not going to be charging. They can still shoot. They can still shoot because they've got assault on everything. And then also the big draw for Renegade Raiders for me is that all the stratagems are useful. So I've already mentioned the one where if something comes out of a transport and the opponent is on the objective, you can reroll hits and wounds, which is really nice. They've also got one where if the opponent is on an objective, you can give the whole squad precision, which if you give it to the accursed cultist, that's a lot of hits, a lot of attacks going into a character, which particularly when you play Necrons, where they've got a lot of characters, well, any army really, but it's very handy for that. We've also got, like I said, auto advance with rhinos and bikes, which can be good because you can just snag some objectives that you might not have got otherwise. There's also really handy, a bit of a weird one as well. If a unit has fought or has been eligible to fight, it can still be in combat. It could not be in combat, but either way, as long as it's eligible to fight that turn, it can do a 6-inch move at the end of the fight phase, either player's turn. So for example, bikes they can move 12 inches, so but anything else can move 6. So you imagine it's the end of your opponent's fight phase. You tell these guys that you want to move them 6 inches out, go on to an objective. You just grabbed yourself maybe 5 points on the primary just by moving up, doing that little fight phase move, and then you can also charge them back in, so you get to fight again first. Which is very, very nice. You've got an armour contempt type stratagem, and then the last one is advance and charge, which again is useful, especially for these cultists and legionnaires. And also, with the same stratagem, if you are on an objective, the enemy's on an objective, you can -1 off the charge. So if it's a 12-inch charge, it will now be 11. If it's 7-inch, it's now going to be a 6. So I've got my first tournament of 3 coming up this month, which I'm going to be live streaming on Sunday. That's Warwickshire Gamers, and yeah, so if you want to tune in and see how my army does, then we'll be starting, I think it's around 9 o'clock on Sunday morning. If not, you can always catch the video later anyway. But hope you enjoyed this, and hopefully I'll see you on the live on Sunday.